Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
Good afternoon, viewers. Thank you very much. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from the Political Command Center. Ladies and gentlemen, across the continents of the world, thank you very much for watching us. Those waking up this morning, those in the afternoon, those in the evening, those in the middle of their sleep. South America, Mexico is on fire.
We apologize for that. Good afternoon to you. Dr. Matanga just experienced a bit of a technical hitch, but once he's able to be back with us, he will continue with that introduction. And of course, as we wait for him, let me just take us through quickly the headlines. This afternoon on the Sunday Nation, the main headline: intrigues of the Hustlers retreat. Details from closed-door sessions reveal how anxious cabinet secretaries and top officials were put on the spot in 3 days of intense meetings expected to shape Kenya Kwanza agenda as pressure mounts on President Ruto to deliver on campaign promises. That is on page 4 and 5 on the Sunday Nation. Junior high school space nightmare. Then ODM to Kalonzo, don't blackmail Raila over 2027. That is on page 20 and 21. The Sunday Standard, the main headline: Boma's untold stories in his first media interview as head of state on Wednesday. Ruto described events of the Bomas of Kenya during the announcement of presidential results in August as horrible. He said even the military had been roped into a scheme to overturn the will of the people after multiple interviews. The Sunday Standard brings you shocking details of the day's events. That is a special report inside the Sunday Standard on page 6 and 7. Revealed new rules for junior school. From new sets of uniforms for the grade 7 learners to separate boards of management, but with the respective primary head teachers acting as principals, we can today disclose how junior secondary school will look like for over 1.2 million children who will join the new class in 2 weeks. That story is on page 10. So now let's see if I can get a few other papers from across the continent. What else we have from across the continent? And we start with the Monitor, Sunday Monitor from Uganda. UPDF deployed troops on the Congo border. And then the Sunday Vision also from Uganda, and qualified nursery teachers to lose jobs. And then the Sunday Punch from Nigeria, fears as military plans ex-terrorists released to governors. And then the Nation as well from Nigeria: Tinubu, vote for me, secure Nigeria's future. The Daily News, that is from Zimbabwe: churches rushed up, post delay campaigns. And then the Standard election report raises dust. That is, I think, from from Zimbabwe as well, if I'm not wrong. The Citizen on Sunday from Tanzania, EAC slips in Global Peace Index. And that is what we have on some of the regional papers. I think Dr. Matanga is back with us. He can continue with the introduction. Doc, back to you.
Thank you very much. Sorry for that slight collapse. The newspapers in London, the Sunday Telegraph talks about Harry's guilt. I couldn't cry in public when my mother died. Yeah, but you were crying in public. Everybody saw you at the coffin. So what do you mean? What is going on here in the royal family in the United Kingdom? People are querying why and why he didn't cry. Why is he coming up with these things right now? Okay, that's the Telegraph. The Sunday Express in London says Harry puts children in danger. Yes, all the children have been put in danger because now things start to, they don't know whether they are in good shape with such a father who has got a problem. Willis lunge at me after Philip funeral. Now, this is a family issue that is growing, and the tabloids in the United Kingdom are getting it, kabisa. They are working on it to make sure that this kingdom collapses or crashes, and then we have a problem. On the Independent, the Americans elected Senator McCarthy as their Speaker of the Congress, replacing the Iron Lady, Nancy Pelosi, who has left, and may God keep her strength. This woman was very colorful, very tough. She told a speech of this gentleman, the president of America, tore it to pieces in front of the president. He said it is rubbish he has read. So we have a new speaker, Kevin McCarthy is taken over as the Speaker of the Congress. The pay deal needed to cut waiting list warns nurses. Everywhere people are looking for more money in order to go back to work. And you know it's January, it always brings a lot of chaos in families and around the world. And Harry, again, the Mirror, another tabloid, is on him. And they are talking about royal security warning. Something is not right. I'm not the only one who has seen the difficulties of more than millions and millions watching this royal family. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and we would like to ask our social movement person, we want to see your face before that's our culture. We know whom we are talking to, sir. That is all. You see your face, then you can go back to listening if you want to. You introduce yourself, African Reformation from Kampala Initiative. Are you able to show us your face?
Yes, I'm showing my face. Let me a minute.
Yeah, just show us the face, then you can go back to the internet might not be stable where you are. People want to know whom we are talking to. Robots these days can plan us into chaos.
Yes, I'm the one.
Yeah, you are
You did the rush. You did the 8.
You are Didi Roche.
Yes, you did the rush. You did the 8.
Okay. You are the one who has been in contact with me.
Yes, Dr. Matsanga. I've been in contact with you for some time.
Thank you very much. You are welcome to this show all the time. Since you are pushing an African agenda, all the time feel free and come in to make your presentations. First of all, since you are a new person, we shall begin with you. The situation, the cost of living, the worsening burden of debt in Uganda. How are people in Uganda feeling about the debt and the more borrowing? Yesterday, I was listening to President Museveni when he was talking about Uganda had about gold worth 13 trillion shillings. And they were going to get only 600 billion shillings out of it. He refused. So where are you getting this gold, Mr. Rashid? Where is it coming from?
Yes, thank you very much.
Are you also
on that question
becoming a dumping ground?
let me initiate the matter. This one here. Are we together?
Yes.
Yes. Let me mention my stand, and as a voice of African Information Initiative, I will speak always the truth as you are speaking the truth on the grounds of African Forum. Uganda is having gold mines in Karamoja and as well as here in Mubende, and also similarly in the areas of Busoga. And the larger deposits of gold were recently, I think last year in around June, were discovered in Busoga. And so Uganda is progressing when it comes to rare earth materials. Uganda is one of the countries that are very near to DRC Congo, and so Albertine region having a lot of resources. And of course, we recently had issues with the US African Leaders Forum, and we saw that the US is looking forward to invest over $2.4 billion in Uganda. The question is, we don't know what the president of Uganda discussed with the leadership of America. So when we look at issues concerning the gold and the discussion that President Museveni was trying to discuss yesterday, we can first of all go back to the issues of what are the parliamentarians responding about it. On 31st of August, the Parliament of Uganda sat, and among the issues that were discussed was about debts. And I see the budget of 2023 this year, we are going to borrow over 9.2 trillion. That is the Ugandan currency. To see how to run the economy of Uganda, you can imagine such things. So I cannot say that Uganda is becoming a dumping ground of the international economies, and also becoming exploitation ground. But depending on what is going on, you will make it clearly.
Thank you very much, my brother. I think we shall be enjoying you when you leave us hanging like that. That's very good. We can make our own judgment. Everybody can. I am one of the few people who gives President Museveni a credit where he has done it well. On this one, Your Excellency, I give you a credit.
Dr. Matsanga.
Go ahead. You wanted to say something?
Yes. So
ahead, yes.
Obviously, when we give such information, I will as well refer with the standard that Uganda is currently. Uganda is one of the countries that have participated in the fourth industrial revolution. And when we count about countries that have been in the industrial revolution of artificial intelligence, gene editing, and the biological intervention, we look at Uganda as one of the countries. But similarly, we can give appreciation to the president of Uganda. Though some people say that dictator, some people say that he's been taking things for his personal gain and for his tribe. We first of all give credit where need be. We first appreciate him for taking the country where it is. And then also, if there is criticism, obviously we are human beings. There is criticism. You look at Libya. Libya recently, 2011, had issues with Gaddafi, and when they had to overthrow Gaddafi, and now we can look at the state of Libya. So first of all, even when we criticize him, let us see the ground to which he is preparing the country. And though sometimes he says that Uganda was supposed to be the middle income country by 2020, and the 2020 has bypassed, still he's raising. I see now a lot of calling of motor vehicles in the country. I see a lot of corruption now being curbed. How? By involving the army in most of the innovations. Because when you involve the army, there is patriotism in the army, and also enacting of the laws. Some of the laws are very critical, and these laws are very important when it comes to bringing about national status to a higher social mobility. And we have to give credit to that. So when it comes to taking gold and being gold maybe as a form of transaction, I haven't yet taken deep learning on seeing how Uganda is going to use gold as a source of transaction. Taking example to countries of West Africa, some of them are using now gold as a form of transaction to the eastern countries, that is in China and Vietnam. Those countries now transact like that. So that is it. I may give a limited knowledge about that. And since I'm not prepared to talk, I just joined in to listen. It is my first time. Thank you very much for taking me on ground.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution this afternoon. Hopefully you can stay online as we continue with this conversation. We're also joined by Daniel Wesonga from Nairobi. Daniel, a very good afternoon to you.
Yes, very good afternoon to you, Miriam, from our headquarters in Nairobi. Good afternoon to Dr. Matsanga David, who is in London. Good afternoon to my good brother from Uganda, and Professor Wanda Wesonga. And it is my pleasure to be on the conversation this particular afternoon from Nairobi, Kenya, Miriam.
Very well, and also we do have Wanda Wesonga from Nairobi as well. Wanda, nice to have you. Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Miriam, I don't know whether you hear me now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have come to another smaller system. This system is playing about. I don't know what is going on. It's playing. When I'm trying to make a point, it disappears. I was making my point very clear that for me, Dr. David Matsanga, I give a credit where it is due. On this one of loyalty, Mr. President Museveni is correct. You cannot have gold and pay. You are given a loyalty for having possessed your gold. But someone is going to take 12.4 trillion shillings out of your own gold. So what a rationale is this? So, Mr. President, kazi hapo, kaza kabisa hapo, was to peleke your gold. Miriam, I have an article written by my best friend, one of the colleagues, that he has written a very fantastic article. And that this article makes you cry tears about the state of Africa, of affairs of Africa. And believe me or not, we are going to engage from time to time. Miriam, on Tuesday, it looks like very many academics are prepared to have a showdown on this question of debt, a cancellation of debt and a debt collection. People seem to be very, very disturbed about this question of debt. Debt is causing so many people untold suffering on the continent of Africa. So it's written a very fun. When you finish reading it, you cry tears, and I'll post it to you. You just cry tears. You know what he has said? He said, if we go the way we are going, Africa will become a mafia state like Mexico. That is, are you hearing me? that if we go the way we are going, Africa will become a mafia state like Mexico. And you know what happens in Mexico. He has, honestly, I'm sending you this article because it is on this line. I cannot send it here, Miriam, but he has written a very, something that by the time I finished reading this article, my tears started dropping. Is this where we are heading? Is this where we are heading? Dr. Spire Senkule, a very senior lecturer in Makerere University, has written an article on my country, which worries me. That is this a state where we are, our economics, our economy, our physical policy discipline, the fiscal discipline of our countries in Africa is wanting. It is smelly, it stinks. We have no prudence. We have no management of resources. We don't know what we want and what we don't want. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, for me, I'm the most worried man on the continent of Africa so far. I have been standing for it, but I only want to raise this high flag that one day, and one day alone, that somebody cancels these dates. Why can't we negotiate? Why Africans? No, let me ask the presidents of Africa. All of you, I'm asking you, support me to take the lobby across the world for Africa. Cancel the dates. Let's hold conferences in Europe. Let's hold conferences in Europe. Let's hold lobby groups in Europe, in America, in where, and tell the truth that we cannot manage to pay helpers, since you also used some of our goods to build the metros of Europe, the trains, the underways, the canals. You have survived on us. Now give us a break. Cancel these old dates of Idi Amin, for example. We are still paying. Kenya is still paying the debts that were borrowed when Songa was not born, when Songa's mother was not born, and maybe the father was not yet born. And we are paying these debts. So isn't it time? That's what I'm saying, my Kampala friend. That article, I think you have seen it in one of the dailies. It is very appealing by Dr. Spire from Makerere University. It's one of the best articles that has ever been written. By the time I finished reading it, my tears started dropping. Is this the Africa that we are looking for? So President Museveni is correct on this one to say, hello, this gold is for us. It's from Uganda. Now, how do we pay royalty? Who is paying royalty? Are those people not the ones to pay us royalty? And now, if the gold is 13 trillion, my brother Sish of social movement is 13 trillion, and you give us only 600 billion. Surely, is this not like a cheating? Open day, indeed. Is it open day robbery? It's open day robbery. So for me, Miriam, the worst part of Africa is the Africa that we see coming, where we look like a Mexican Africa, the Mexico of El Chapo, the Mexico of El Chapo's son, the Mexico where people shoot each other. We should avoid Africa going that route. And I also want to give you more clue on what you should read next time. Read about Aldo Moro, Italy, the Italian prime minister, who was kidnapped by the mafia called Aldo Moro. The Red Brigade kidnapped him, slaughtered him, killed him, because he used to work both with the mafia at night, and during that time he was in his prime minister's office in Rome. They taught him a lesson. The man was never seen again. Aldo Moro died. So ladies and gentlemen, that is, lady and gentlemen, that is my take. But the question, the tough question here on this Africa Watch, Miriam, is the debt worsening? And who can bail us out? Give us that background you seem to have, if you have it there. The Africa debt from some time and up to now, where do we stand? What method can we say, ask these guys who gave us the money to help us? Just help us. Help us. And you know, for me, I grew up in a place where my father used to tell me, and my mother, they used to tell me, come a bit to Kombaya and buy. I'm the teacher. You are not feeling well. You are going out now. Don't vomit in the class. Don't wait for the vomit to come on the classroom desk. Run out, then explain to the teacher. If I stayed inside for 2 minutes, I would have vomited on your shoes. So isn't it time for us to stand up, gentlemen, lady and gentlemen, and say, cancel this thing for us. We are going in a wrong direction. Thank you. I land my mic and back to Miriam. Bring us up to date. Analyst, anybody else who had not spoken? Was it Elif Zwanda?
Nobody had spoken. We just started.
Okay, so far, bring us up to date with the figures. Thanks.
All right, very well. At the start of the pandemic, the financial crisis in Africa had already started, and in December 2021, a pandemic-inspired scheme to suspend interest payment to bilateral creditors ended that had been extended at the beginning of the pandemic. It had delayed debt problems but did not fix them. In February 2022, Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine and jumpy investors began to ditch African government bonds. In March, the Federal Reserve began to raise interest rates, which has made financing pricier everywhere. Meanwhile, China, a big economic partner for the continent, is struggling because of a rambling property debt problem of its own and lockdowns to slow COVID-19. All this has taken toll on Africa's economy, and more than 20 low-income African countries are in debt distress or at risk of debt distress by 2021, and that is according to the International Monetary Fund. Now, the good news is that while overall debt levels have generally risen, action requested by African governments from development finance institutions, DFIs, and multilateral lenders has meant many African countries have been able to support their economies without taking on too much additional private debt. The IMF has also allocated Africa $33 billion in special drawing rights, those are SDRS, providing an immediate liquidity boost without adding to the debt portfolio. At the same time, the G20's short-term crisis management tool, the Debt Service Suspension Initiative, DSSI, has ended, and its intended replacement, the Common Framework for Debt Treatment beyond the DSSI, has been implemented far more slowly than originally envisioned, with only Chad, Ethiopia, and Zambia engaging with it so far to try to mitigate the debt factors in this country. So according to the IMF, without me going into too much of that detail, over, I think, 20 countries right now have applied for this debt, what they call the debt mitigating the special drawal rights, where some of these debts could be forgiven, or some of them also seeking to structure the payments of these debts. And so perhaps just adding to what Dr. Matsanga and our first guest there has said, Africa right now is really going through a tough time, and not just Africa. I think that the rest of the world, but Africa has been hard hit because of already existing financial problems. So who can bail out Africa? And Doc initially had said there that we need a debt cancellation. Daniel Wesonga, your thoughts on all this?
Miriam, now I'm back on this other one, but I keep this one on standby in case. Am I audible now enough this way, Mr. Edidi from Kampala?
Yes, you're very audible, Dr. Olu.
Okay, thank you very much. The situation now, Miriam, and my fellow panelists, there is no shortcut. We need to go and beg. We need to go and say, Jermaine, help us. Look at, no, let me ask you. Ghana had oil. Total Oil came in. Before Total Oil came in to say, we shall be doing your oil, Ghana was doing very well economically. Ghana was one of the few countries in the sub-Saharan Africa whose economy was being run on very strict terms, that there was no corruption, no increase of prices, no increase of commodities without the consent of the parliament. Then in Ghana, we had a Maguire, a very dangerous Maguire. And I know Wanda is not very happy when I started the name of Maguire, a political Maguire of Man U, who started scoring for himself. And he can only score in a national team, but at home, he helped the opponent to score. The Minister of Finance of Ghana. Now, of late, Ghana, which we thought was a promise for Africa, a nation for Africa, a nation that will deliver Africa. Nana Addo, an elder statesman who had tried the stab at the presidency for a long time until he finally came down and got this presidency and became the president of the Republic of Ghana. Has let us down. He went to US. While he's in US, he was criticizing everybody. Why do we come here to beg? At the same time, he was asking for IMF to use some other method. There is this structural rearrangement of loans where they could use that as G20 to finally get rid of all the loans. Because some of these loans in Africa will take us to Indian Ocean. For us in Uganda, we shall sink in Lake Victoria. I'm telling you, if Mr. Adid is not talking, me, I'm saying the truth, what I know. There are people there who are not able to raise money for school fees for their children. You are in the social movement, the Pan-African Reformation System Initiative of Social Order. There are people in Uganda who cannot take their children to school. There are people in Uganda who don't, despite the fact that the food is available. Some people are not able to buy that food if they don't work out extra means. So what has killed our economies? While we go to borrow, it's not only Uganda, every country, Zimbabwe, mention it, Tanzania is being strict. There's no other country until Africa starts shooting people on firing squad, like Singapore did by putting people, close allies of the Prime Minister, on firing squad, that people started fearing how to catch, never to touch the government money. But our president, I tell you, my brothers, we are in, and sister, we are in terrible crisis. So on Tuesday, we launched this movement, worldwide movement of seeking China, even in China, not West only. China has built us a railway. Medium, last week I was suggesting, and some people laughed at me. Why don't we create northeastern region and give some parts to Chinese? Because what is killing China is the population. So we can create a province of the Chinese to make China a tribe in Kenya, and tell them that from now onward, some of your citizens can also come here and build their city and enjoy the SGR. Instead of us paying heavily for this SGR, we can negotiate and use it, all of us, including your citizens. So help us cancel this date. Yes, we can't wait for Armageddon to arrive from heaven. Then we can run around, because the way we are going right now, Miriam, we are heading for a very terrible times ahead, where the cost of living, at the moment in Kenya, I believe you parents are smiling a bit now, because the crunch time of the date has not come. You still have about 11 days or 12 days around there. Mr. Wanda, Miriam, and others, and the group behind there in Kenya, in the headquarters. You are happy because 23rd has not arrived. But I'm telling you, if you look at every parent on 22nd, those who come to Nairobi on 22nd, Elif's wonder, some of them don't want to talk to you. Honestly, because things are bad. You are going, your account reads, $4 million. No, 440,000 shillings. And you have a bill to pay of how much money? Where are you going to go? The books take you all the money. What do you do? Some of the people are not going to talk to people on that day. From 21st, 22nd, houses, homes in Uganda will be silent. The night noise will not be there anymore. The early breakfast that is given with good sense of humor, Daniel will be missing. Elvis will be missing. and Mr. Edid, I believe you are one of those candidates because I believe you are also you're a parent, and there are people waiting for you to deliver them to not only a school but boarding school. Am I wrong, sir?
Very, very right. Very.
Are you not also beginning to jump? How are you feeling? Are you talking very well with Madame at the moment?
You know, when you
that laughter
when you go to the dining table, when you go to the dining table, you breathe in and out, then stop breathing. Then you say, "I'm already satisfied."
You see, that's what is happening to most of the dining tables. And if you wonder, don't keep quiet. Can you tell us exactly what is going on? What are you thinking when it approaches 23rd of January? Are you all right in the house? Mr. Elif Ziwanda? Daniel Wesonga, you might be having the same problem. Maybe you tell us as Elif is arranging his equipment. Are we all right?
Dr. Matsanga, whatever I'll say right now, it is that it is not easy. It is not easy not even being a parent, but a family man. You know, today I'll tell you, if you have 1,000 shillings, the moment you go to the shop and buy something, you just break it. That money is gone. And that is how it is. So I believe things are going to be tough, not only here in Kenya, but even globally in Uganda, in Tanzania, and many other sub-Saharan African countries. I think we are in deep trouble, Dr. Masanga.
Thank you very much. Eric Zwanda, have you come back on the microphone? Thank you very much, Miriam. Back to you in the studios. Let's look at what exactly is taking place. What can be done now that we have crossed the red line? The Rubicon has been crossed. The borrowing has been huge. Africa is bleeding. We need more money, and yet we cannot get it anywhere. What solutions do you think Africa should bring on table? Any of you can take the question. Miriam? What solution do you think? What can we, at the moment, what can we do? We can't kill people who are practicing corruption. No. The human rights organizations will come for us. In some countries, even corruption has been made a charter. You know, there are some African countries which is very normal that corruption is welcome. Yeah, it's part of the charter. Because the other day I asked how many of you, if you have never corrupted, the only person who came out on this platform was Miriam, who said she has never. Yes, I don't know. I would also ask you the same question today. And let me begin. Miriam and I are the only people who said, take us to the police. Let's go to court. If you want to come to cut my electricity, to end the court in, what? What have I done wrong? Judge might look at me and say, I think you have a point there. But not to go and say, don't cut, take 1,000 tomorrow. If it's a bill, I struggle to pay it. And for me, I want to tell you the most important thing that I do is I don't take anything on credit. I'm sorry. I don't take anything on credit. No way. I don't have a credit card. I fear. I stopped having a credit card about 21 years ago. I have only a debit card. If the money is finished, it is finished. If my telephone is not ringing you, it means I don't have money to ring you. So don't expect me to ring you. Until I buy a phone. Or no, I buy airtime, put on, then I can ring you. I don't want this luxurious operations, luxury, where that the bill will come at the end of the month, not me. Because even now, within Safaricom or MTN, there are people who can put the other money's bill on your bill. Yes, it did happen here in the United Kingdom. It happened in the United Kingdom. I went to install, when Sky News had just started, I installed a digital recorder. And there were Ugandans working in the Sky News accounts department. And guess what they did? This Ugandan saw my name there, and they kept on calling me at late hours. That, boss, if you want us to do something. Then I said, to do what? He said, we can do something. I work here. I said, what? Honestly, Miriam, we can, and the panel, and my friend, we can blame this Bazungu, but it is us who have gone there and spoiled their systems. We have spoiled the systems in those countries. This man now is telling me, Daktari, can we meet down in a corridor? We talk. I'll tell you how we can have that bill. Instead of paying that 54 pounds per month, I'll tell you what to do. I said, no. He said, but now don't tell the manager. I said, I'm not, you can put me in a scene not to tell the truth, and you want me not to tell the manager. Nigerians, Ugandans, Kenyans, Somali, we have spoiled these things. We have also become a problem in these countries. We are part of the debt crisis. We have worsened ourselves into a very terrible crisis. Wanda, are you back on the phone? Mr. Wanda put an image and disappeared. So, Daniel or Miriam, what do we do now that the situation has worsened? Solutions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga. And for me, from where I sit, I believe, first of all, these Western countries or other developed countries that have been lending Africa, they should be considerate to write off some of these debts. If, for example, the sub-Saharan African countries are not able to raise these billions of dollars that are being they owe to let's say, to the Chinese or to the Western countries. Even if you're gonna come and kill all of us, there's no way we're gonna be able to raise this amount of money. A country that is still struggling to feed its own citizens, a country that is still struggling to put up its healthcare systems, cannot be able to promptly and be able to, effectively pay some of these debts. So I think they should look at where we came from as a world. At some point, you realize that we have countries like Singapore, we had countries like China, who are dependent on also other countries that were doing better. But look at where they are today. If it were not for some generosity from other countries, they will not be where they are today. So I think,
why are you not on the show?
Actually look at these debts and be able to forgive these debts so that we are able to divert the funds to do other things that will be able to alleviate our people from poverty, to be able to improve our healthcare systems, and also be able to bolster our infrastructural development. But also, Dr. Matsanga, from where I sit, I believe Africa has the capacity to be able to come up with measures to ensure that we have enough revenue in our countries. For example, the other day I saw you writing an article about how we export, raw coffee and tea, only for us to go and buy it at a very exorbitant price in some of the joints that are imported from Europe. Value addition is something that Africa would have learned to do. We have a lot of arable lands. We are amongst the biggest exporters of coffee, tea, cocoa, and many other agricultural products. Why can't we be adding value to our products before we export? Because by doing so, we will be able to derive a lot of returns from whatever we export. Look at the minerals we have. When you compare to our continent to countries like Singapore, Singapore initially began as an island city of 800 fishermen, but it had no even clean water of itself for its people to drink. It has no natural resources. But look where it is. Why can't we also in Africa be able to look at innovative ways of actually improving our human social capital in terms of, training our people and providing the world with the most affordable but reliable and effective, labor force, so that some of these mega companies, the multinational companies, can come to Africa to source out manpower and human resource, capabilities, so that they are able to grow and be able to produce with efficiency. So those are some of the things that we should be looking at. Look at our mineral resources from Congo and the West African countries. As we fight, we give the cartels and warlords time to be able to smuggle these resources out of Africa without processing, without even setting the correct price limits, so that we are able as countries to benefit from this. So what if we could actually set up structural, way, we could have structures rather, where we could actually export these minerals at some kind of value, so that we do not have all these leakages. We do not have minerals being stolen from the African continent. So we derive the maximum value. See whatever the US does with steel. See whatever countries like Russia do with fertilizer, and whichever oil and all the other resources that they export. But in Africa, when it comes to Africa, we have chaos, we don't have structures, and that is what makes it easier for countries like France, for countries like the United States of America and China to come to Africa and cheaply steal our resources, whereas the people where these resources are being stolen from cannot afford even basic social amenities, do not even own, something like a phone. You go to Congo where cobalt, the basic component of making phones and laptops is mined, but you find these people cannot even afford a smartphone. So I think some of these things are what is making Africa to lag behind in terms of development and economic wellness. And I think for the African continent, if we were to go back to the drawing board and be able to plan ourselves, to be able to look in the path of self-reliance rather than waiting for unforeseen Messiah to come and rescue us, we will be able to actually stand on our feet and be able to bridge the gap of the debt that is between us and other countries that we've been borrowing from. For how long, as the African continent, are we going to borrow? I think time has come where Dr. Matsanga, Miriam, my brother from Uganda, Ididi, and my brother, Professor Wanda Wesonga, as Africa, we have to look at alternative ways to be able to empower ourselves. And it is not that we don't have the resources. We have them in plenty. It is not that we don't have the human capacity. We have some of the best brains in Africa. Therefore, the things that actually make Africa to lag behind are things that touch on our own organization, are things that touch on structural deficiencies in terms of leadership, are things that touch on some negligence in the way we handle our resources and the way we allow the outside world to come and dictate to us on how we should do our things. The day Africa will be able to stand like China and say that they will not be influenced by the outside forces, that is the day that Africa will be able to rise and soar in the international arena. Yesterday, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we actually discussing on how the Chinese carry themselves. You realize that in China, we have so many Chinese who do not know English, and they don't bother. They don't want even to know English. But whatever they want to know is what the English people or the Western countries are doing, so that they can emulate and be able to do it much better without losing their Chinese culture and the way they do their things. Why can't Africa be like the Chinese? Why can't Africa be like the Arabs? We want to always emulate the white people. We want to always emulate the West, but we want to emulate them in all the wrong way. When you go to Francophone Africa, you find people who are from the autocracy who want to be like the French.
I believe Africa can be able to overcome this burden of debt, but we need to go back to the drawing board and be able to restructure and to be able to reevaluate
the way we do our things. Otherwise, I submit.
Thank you very much for that. And before we go further, there is a Wanda Wanda, are you back here? Are you now able to talk something about this worsening debt and what solutions what can we do as Africans? Are you back now, Wanda?
Yes, at least I can now talk.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Indeed, time has come that Africans need to change their game, that we need to change the way we do our things, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we address our economy, and how much do we go outside there to borrow? Why are we borrowing this money? Therefore, because you look into how we normally do our things and how we run our economy, it is a case of at times when we go out there, we borrow this money, and probably we had not even organized ourselves to know what we want to do with this money. And that's why, in most cases, this money ends up in being spent in the wrong ways. It's not once, it's not twice. You have heard of our people going to borrow this money, then this money will not be accounted for. We will talk in terms of billions, that we'll go borrow this money to service our national budget. And you look into the allowances that we give our leaders, the salaries that we give our leaders, the kind of life that they lead, then it is a very expensive life, a case that you expect these people to be in one way or the other generating this money. Therefore, you also look into the loans itself. We are being held in captivity, that these loans are now not making us move as people. And in most cases, when you are always in debt, that you're in debt to this person, you're in debt to this nation, you're in debt to this organization, thinking straight becomes a problem. That you cannot think straight. If you work in the office, then what you're only thinking about is the debt I have for so and so, and this other person. And therefore, as Africans, one, we need to look into how we spend this money. Probably we need to curb some of the expenditures. Then as we do that, we also need now to start finding our own solutions, our own homegrown solutions. That we cannot for years, for decades, be looking at West, looking at East, to offer solutions to the challenges that we're having. That we expect you go hungry today, then probably you don't go hungry tomorrow and the day to come. Only sleep hungry today, then wake up knowing I need to find a way out. You don't go to your neighbor borrowing salt today. You go again, borrow tomorrow the same salt. You want to borrow next week the very salt. You need now to find a way of, I borrowed yesterday and today. I should not borrow tomorrow. We borrowed this money from IMF. We went to China, we faced East, and we feel like things are not working. We are still defined as the poorest continent. Then it means things are not going, we are not doing things the right way. Therefore, what probably we should start doing, we need to start living within our limits. Within our limits. You don't live very expensive, and at the same time, you expect someone from outside to service your bills. Number two, we need now to start looking into these loans. Yes, at times you cannot live without the loans, but we need to start looking at these loans and find a way out. The other day we were talking about our own Shylocks. Probably find a way out on how will we be able to get these loans from within the continent, from among ourselves. But as we get these loans, how do we spend this money? Is it just getting loans because we're supposed to get loans, or because countries are getting loans? Or do we get loans because we want to service a certain project? Therefore, as I land my mic, I feel like time has come when we need to start telling each other the truth, that you cannot go ahead borrowing money, whereas you want to spend this money to buy a luxurious car. You cannot go on borrowing this money when you want to go and buy a chopper. And as you buy this chopper, the hospitals are not okay. Schools are not okay. The agriculture sector is dying. Therefore, we need to we need to prioritize our agendas before we go out there looking for money. Number two, we need to come to a realization that loans have an interest. And this interest for time in, time out, this interest has been going outside. Then how do we come up with a way, how do we craft a system where these interests will remain in the continent? We cannot have a continent that is counting decades, but it's still living on loans and loans from outside, and funny, borrow the loans and steal the very loans, put the money in individuals' pockets. It defines persons who are not serious, persons who are still sleeping, and we only need to awake. Dr. Masanga.
Okay. Doc, are you there?
Yeah, thank you very much, Miriam. I wanted us to, Mr. Edid, do you have anything from Kampala's before I put on this video of President Museveni? Yes, Edid, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. I would begin with responding to Brother Dan Songa, and also to the very beginning point of Dr. David Matsanga, that what should we do with these debts? One, I will begin with the Chinese proverb that says that give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a life, and you feed him for a day. But teach him how to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime. But Bishop Maponga added that give a man religion and he will be praying for fish for the rest of his life. I mean that for us to be praying for Europe, America, Asia, to write off these debts is like praying for a fish for the rest of our life. Europe, America, and China know what they are doing. And it should be very clear to every African that we should not be praying or even requesting to write off these debts. Because it is planned, is intentional, is the way of their life. They do it every day and they are very happy about it. What should we do about it then? We Africans have to do it very clearly and refuse some of these debts. We have to become united. Why would we go and borrow in someone's house and say, let us not beg, and yet we have gone there as beggars? Do you need to come to my house and tell me that, my brother, I've come to your home to tell you to stop begging, and yet you have come to ask for salt? That does not give any meaning. So first of all, as Africans, we must make it very clear that let's be having very serious AU, African Union. Let's make it very serious. Let it not be the shadow of the imperialist club, that is the UN. Let it not be its shadow. Let us become very serious. If President Museveni can go and visit President Kofi Adonana Kofi and talk to him how to strengthen African Union, let him go and talk to him. Personally, it should not be a formal meeting. It should be an invitation. It should be just a brother-to-brother meeting, house-to-house meeting. If President Museveni can go and talk to the President Sheket of DRC, personally, without making it formal, let it be important. If he can go and talk to the President of Angola, let it be personal meeting, and let them see how to reinstate the African Union. And let the African Union be a body of united people. Let it not be a body of angry, greedy a body that protects elders. Let it be very serious. And Africa will write off these debts by itself, not requesting the West. They can't. I was reading the book of John Perkins, The New Confessions of Economic Hitman, and he was telling me that the West is intending to give debts to Africa, give the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank rights and chances of giving resources to Africa in form of aid, and then they come back with their technocrats. These technocrats will now be following the money that's given to Africa as a debt, and they will take it back. If you don't want that money, or if you don't want their technocrats, then they will find a solution for you. And so why do we want this debt to be written off? Why? You think they don't have a purpose for it? Let us wake up. Let's advocate for unity, one-on-one unity. Me and Dr. Matsanga, me and Daniel, me and Wanda Wesonga, me and everybody here. Personal relationship. And then we shall agree what.
Okay.
Dr. Matsanga.
Miriam, thank you very much. It looks like you have some fresh ideas of how we can organize this AU. But I'm just going to shock you that the same AU, the same leaders whom you are telling to go and talk, are the same ones when they reach there, there are documents already prepared for them. And they just read the documents without telling us, no consultation in Africa. How many times has President Museveni asked Ugandans that I'm going to the AU, what do you want me to say in the African Union? How many presidents on Africa go to their natives, go to their people and ask their MPs, I'm going to speak to the AU summit. What do you want me to do in the AU summit? Talking about AU, I was going to bring this video of Uganda, of His Excellency President Museveni, but let's look for the video of Gaddafi. What? Gaddafi is the man who removed AU, got AU from Organization of African Union, Unity to African Union. Let's listen to his views of what he thinks about Africa.
Well, I was with Muammar Gaddafi when Gaddafi in 1999 advanced coming out of the OAU to the African Union with a vision of the United States of Africa. Muammar Gaddafi spent, listen to me, billions of dollars to create the African Union. Did you know that Gaddafi gave $300 million and the other African nations gave $100 million to put up a satellite so that we who call Africa don't have to go through Europe to get to Africa? And Europe was getting $500 million a year just by our telephone calls to the continent. Now we can call directly to Africa, and that $500 million is in the hand of African people. Did you know that Muammar Gaddafi was setting up an African development bank with $70 billion in the African Development Bank from Libyan oil money? That we would not have to borrow money from the IMF and the World Bank at these exorbitant rates. Zero interest under Islamic non-usury teachings. I just left St. Kitts, and in the island of St. Kitts, he was going to set up a Caribbean Development Bank. He told the Prime Minister there, and he was going to put $1 billion in that bank for Caribbean development. Why do you think they killed him? You think they killed him because he killed his people? Hell no. They killed him because, listen to me real good. You touched my nerve with that question. Did you know that in Libya nobody's homeless? Listen, everybody in Libya has either a home or an apartment. They call it a flat. Did you know education in Libya is free? From kindergarten through college? And did you know that if a Libyan wanted to come to America to be educated, the government in Libya paid for their education? Did you know that? I was there when he opened a $500 million hospital with 18 theaters for operation. I was there, and we went when he was making their own medicines. See? This was a man that gave free medical attention to all the citizens of Libya. And if Libya did not offer that kind of medical attention, they could fly anywhere in the world and get it. And the Libyan government would pay for it. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Did you know that from the oil money, every Libyan citizen got a stipend every year? And did you know that that man had no debt? Everything in his country was paid for. See? Now, when you got a man that did that for an African nation and was trying to do that for all Africa, how do you think Europe felt about it?
Okay, go ahead, Miriam.
It's okay. Just come in.
Yeah, thank you very much, our listeners. You heard what His Excellency, the late President of Libya, did. He brought AU. I brought this question because I did from Kampala was telling us that we go and talk about AU. How are you going to talk about AU when AU itself is sabotaged? You know, it is because of Muammar Gaddafi that we have now cheap calls. Even Safaricom is cheaper. MTN is cheaper because of him. If he had not put that satellite up, we would be still making trunk calls, very expensive. You can imagine a call going back to Indian Ocean near Mauritius. You are in Nairobi, but you want to call London. They take you to Mauritius. Then from Mauritius, they send the call to Europe. Imagine that distance. That's how things were working. And in that way, they were making money. But in a nutshell, I don't agree with people. I have not agreed with my friend I did from Kampala to say we don't seek to beg them to cancel these debts. Because I don't see which African country is going to win, is going to actually pay this money in full and sit back and say, I've paid and I've finished. I'm now a clean man. Don't borrow me any more money. Do you see any country in Africa that is going to borrow any money? Do you see it that is going to pay this money in full? No. We are going to be in this process as people beggars, begging for help throughout until maybe Angel Gabriel or somebody else comes into place to tell us what we should do. So any final comments as you land on this subject? Should we borrow? Should we continue borrowing? Or should we have a bailout from people who think that enough is enough?
And because I've been listening, let me just make my very short comments before our guest from Uganda comes in. And I think I do support a lot of what he says about this debt cancellation. Based on the argument that he has put forth, fine, if we have some of these debts cancelled, is it a guarantee that Africa will be debt-free? because a lot of times we borrow these monies and it goes to support a lot of key things in our countries, health sometimes, education, and other things, which are expenses that are recurring. So that means if we cannot sustain, if we cannot take care of our basic, budget. I think he started by telling us, outlining towards the budget of the Ugandan of Uganda, and how much the country will be able to raise, and how much of that budget that will depend on the funding from outside, from borrowing from outside to service the national budget of Uganda. And that is what we also see here in Kenya. Will have a huge budget. We can only service as a country part of that, our national budget, and the rest of it comes from, borrowing from outside. So if we continue, if we ask for this debt cancellation, it is not a guarantee that Africa is going to be debt-free. So will we be keep asking for this debt cancellation? And I think what the proposal that he put forth there, now we must look inside, and I think also Wesonga alluded to this. We must, both Wesongas, we must look now to find a permanent fix. Debt cancellation, this is a temporary fix. And after that debt has been cancelled, trust and believe we shall go out there on a borrowing spree again. That's what we do. We shall go out there and borrow again. So we will not have fixed this problem. So for us to really find a lasting solution and a permanent fix to this problem, we must start looking at interrogate our way of doing things. We must start looking at ways to strengthen our own economies. Look at the trade imbalances that sometimes is, how Africa, trades with the rest of the world. You'll find that we don't have policies in place to protect our own industries, to protect our own people and our own businesses. There are things you cannot take to China. They will not allow you to export, to their country. But we don't have a problem as we bring in everything. We bring in everything, even those which we are able to make in our own country. So in that regard, you find that there's no the competition with the local market. They can't keep up. So we don't have policies in place to protect our people, to protect our manufacturing industries, to protect our small businesses and SMEs. And these are the backbone of any economy, even in China itself. So this fix that we are seeking to get from outside, this will not fix our problems in this continent. Debt cancellation will not fix our financial problems in this continent. Africa must put policies in place that will, in the long run, help in solving the perennial problem of borrowing from outside. They will cancel that debt. We'll still go out there to borrow. So we'll not have fixed anything in the long run. And I think he brought up the issue of AU and how we need to strengthen AU. 75% of AU's activities are funded by European Union mostly. So until we get a hold of AU by funding AU ourselves as a continent, then AU is just a gatekeeper. That is just an institution that will be used by the West, especially Europe, and because they're the biggest funders of AU, and the US and the rest of other external countries that will run the agenda through AU, because they are the ones funding. 75% of African Union, funding comes from outside. So we don't even have a voice there. We just show up there for formality because it's an African institution. So we just show up there, but you'll find that the agenda that is being run in the African Union has really nothing to do with the benefit of the Africa and its people, and that is because we are unable to fund even our own institution. And I think Daniel brought up the issue of value addition. These are things that we could relook. Even as we try to strengthen our own economies, we can't depend on borrowing as a means of survival in this continent. So we have to look at how we spend, how we spend in this continent. And for me, I'll just stick to what I've been saying throughout this conversation, that is debt restructuring. I think that could be one of the options, because if these debts are cancelled, as our friend from Kampala has said, it will not just be cancelled on a goodwill. It will be cancelled, but it will also be anchored on other things. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. So next time they bring a motion and something in the United Nations that needs voting, whether you agree with it or not, but because you owe some people some debt somewhere, then you have to vote a certain way. You have to sing a certain song. So even if it's cancelled, you're not let off the hook. You still owe these people in other ways, and you shall pay in kind. So it's not a win-win solution for Africa in any way. So I think we have to look at our own solutions here moving forward to address the issue of debt.
Yeah, thank you very much, Miriam. You have done a very good analysis on that. And even if we cancelled them, how sure are we that we are not going to go back to borrow?
Oh, we are sure we are going to borrow 100%, Doc.
We're going to borrow. We shall go back, borrow again. As long as we have corruption, I think, east or west, as long as there is too much corruption, kickbacks, taking money from the deals before even the road is built. You know, one of my problems that I have before I bring in Edith, because I see Edith has got a hand up, is this American money comes in, but they spend most of the time in hotels on seminars. You know, gives us more seminars than the road structure. You know, everybody come with a notebook, you have lunch in Intercontinental, you see all the younger generations running around with books. You know, this culture of NGO syndrome that only works very well. And NGO can work very well in London because it's recognized. But how many NGOs in Africa are recognized? If you start your NGO, I don't know how I did in Kampala is surviving. He might tell us more. And he has to survive, because once you make one big critic, if you become a critic of government on certain value, you are registered. So I did. What do you have? I know you are laughing, but I'm asking serious questions. I did. I don't. Okay. I operate in Kampala because once you make it, you become a critic. Then you cut off.
Yes. Dr. Matsanga and every person on board, we have to make this clear again that debts must be restructured. I want us to take this example to Northern Korea. I don't think whether Northern Korea is getting also loans and international aid.
Nobody gives them money, no. They use what they...
How about Zimbabwe?
They use what they have.
Thank you. Similarly, the psychology of scratch my back and the fact that I should scratch your back must be known every person who is living on earth. One, every day when we wake up, we look at the ways through which we solve our problem. But we make it too personal. However, if we make it to the societal level, we shall be able to solve the problem of the society at large. And if you find that your solution as a person has been solved, thank that you worked as a group. The reason why me personally would appreciate President Museveni is looking at the integration of the Interlacustrine region. And so this one would open market for the people of African, eastern part of Africa. And integration of Africa will become important in opening the market for even small products or goods that are manufactured within. and would even benefit the small entrepreneurs. So how can we now get out of these debts if that is the case? I tell you, brother and my own sisters inside here, let us make personal contacts. Personal. The president must meet with the president and talk as brothers. You see, Gaddafi was making personal contact with the leaders of Africa. Personal. He had the wife here, the wife of one of the chiefs and the kings of Western Uganda here, King Oyo. The mother of King Oyo was the wife of Gaddafi. Everyone knows that. Everybody knows that. Even you, Dr. Matanga, you know that. He used to come to Uganda even without invitation.
And I did. You are putting me in very hot soup. Even me, I know this.
Yes, he had a wife here. He had a wife. He had a wife here.
I know the lady. I know the queen, the mother queen. I have met her in London over 20 times. We did fundraising. It is true, but I didn't know it had gone beyond the level of marriage. So please don't fix me there. I did.
Okay, it didn't go to the level of marriage because they didn't recognize it.
Yeah, I did not know. I did not know. To be very honest, the lady, Mother Queen of Toro, she had meetings with us, with my friends, the House of Lords, about 4 lords. One of them is who called me to such a meeting in London. That was the height of the Gaddafi leadership. We met in London, and they were thinking of going to Tripoli with these lords when we were trying to avert a war, to avert a catastrophe that was coming. So I left them to that level. But you have said personal contacts are very important. That's very good. How many presidents in Africa are even talking face-to-face? And he did. How many? If you put Mr. Kagame and them some 7 in one room, they will come out smiling, but as soon as they reach their capital city, the guns start. They come out smiling. The President Museveni and President Kagame can come one visitor and all the prince and his mate, but as soon as they go back, no implementation. You saw we had the border closed for 2 years. I don't know whether you saw that one. 2 years. The Uganda, Kenya, yes. Rwanda closed.
Uganda, Katuna border.
Yes, it was closed. Most of us who had cars, trucks across in Rwanda, 2 years we waited. We sat. You can't take it out a truck. Where do you take it? Who are you who was able a border to be opened for your truck to go? So we had to sit like this and become paupers. People, businessmen in Kenya suffered a great loss. Nobody has compensated them. But let me come to the reality. Are there African presidents who are able to talk AU? Yet AU itself covers them. They covers them. Now cover. You know, a man like a Paul Obiya, can he talk to AU about it? What? Democracy. Can Paul Obiya talk about democracy after 42 years in power? Can Mr. The Equatorial Guinea guy, can he talk? And Nguesso talk about democracy? Look at the things that we have done in the African continent that embarrass us. So the image, that's why I have put this topic on to you today. The image of Africa is tainted by debt and the conflict. Out there, everybody, when you mention I'm from Africa, I said, oh, are you from Congo? Someone said, are you from Congo? He thinks that, oh, are you from Somalia? If you have hair, which is different, Say, are you from Somalia? They associate us with a conflict. Yet they are good Africans like you did. You want to go and travel and pick a business in and come back. You don't want to be asked a question whether you are Congolese or South Sudan. In fact, for you, I did. They will ask you, are you from South Sudan? You know, because of your height, they will think, are you from South Sudan, sir? So these are things that shame Africa. And that's why I am going to discuss them openly. We are ashamed of debts. China come and cancel them. We might not be able to pay because China can even now take, if China can bring 1 million troops that can cover a country like Kenya, it will be a big war. Eh? So let's now think of ways. One of my ways that I've suggested is Karamoja, for example, has been a troublesome area. Why can't we get some money to save the Entebbe expressway payments? We give to some Chinese as a tribe there. Yeah, they live in a park up in Kidepo, near Kidepo there. They develop a city where planes will land. They can eat their, what did they eat in China? This, what are they? There's something very synonymous with Chinese.
Noodles.
What is it called? Noodles. They eat their noodles in their city. They can fly in. So they save us payments. Because that's the only way I am saying we are going. Not up to when they should be there, I did. There should be a tribe in Uganda. You think Chinese are not producing children in Africa now? They are human beings. Give it 10 years, you will see people with Africans with eyes like this. You know, it's going to come. They are interacting with our women. You see? They are interacting with our women. Men are apart, I have not seen women Chinese workers. Not yet. You see? The laws that should govern them, you are asking very serious questions. The laws that could govern them is very Ugandan law. And there might be no corruption in that Chinese tribe. Maybe they will teach us not to be corrupt. Because in China, there is no corruption. So thank you very much. Let me receive parting shots from each of you. Let me start with Daniel Wesong. Daniel Wesong.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga David. And of course, whenever it comes to the topic of the debt burden on the African continent, it's a very, very, elaborate topic that goes all the way back from the time, the pre-colonial time and the colonial time and post-colonial time. Dr. Matsanga, in this entire discussion, I realized we missed out the point that, Africa's sweat and blood was used to build the mega cities that we have in Europe. We were taken out of our continent. Our forefathers were taken out of our continent, through the sea into the west to go and build cities. No one has ever paid back the free labor that the slaves, African slaves, were used to build the cities and the western capitals. No one has ever been paid for the raw materials that were stolen from Africa to go build the Western economies. And it is a matter of fact, Dr. Matsanga, that most Western countries know that without the resources, both human and the natural resources, the Western world will not stand. And therefore, Dr. Matsanga, we do not beg that they cancel these loans. They actually should do so on principle and on the fact that much of the wealth that the Western countries hold today was actually stolen from Africa. Look at even, their museums, the amount of intellectual property the items that they stole from the African continent. Until recently, in West Africa, we had some of the Western countries actually returning artifacts that had been stolen from the African, countries. So therefore, Dr. Masanga, I believe for cancellation of debt, we do not have to negotiate, we do not have to beg the Western countries. We have to realize that these are the same people who came at one point in time in history and actually raided our continent of the valuable resources, of the valuable, intellectual capacity and the labor force that was used to construct their mega cities in the West. And therefore, Dr. Masanga, I believe they can cancel these loans on that basis. And also as they do so, in Swahili they say, abebwae kujikaza. We also have to do our best now to be able to come up with very, very watertight structures and institutions to make sure that we do not get money from the West and actually it ends up in individual pockets, like my good brother, Professor Wanda Wesonga said. Because if we have corruption, believe me, Dr. Masanga, we will go on borrow more loans, like Miriam said, and this money will end up in the pockets of the individuals, and it won't help the citizens of our countries. So therefore, Africa also needs to overhaul its social, political, and economic system so that we do not have corruption as a terminal disease that actually prevents us from growing and reaching the levels where other countries that were behind Africa, countries like Singapore, countries like China, countries like India have come from and be able to overtake us through the decades. So I believe, Dr. Masanga, if we can look at it from that angle, first of all, let's have some of these European powers canceling these loans, and that can be done in terms of consensus. They've never paid us for whatever they took from us. Number two, let us work on our own social, political, and economic systems to ensure that we have no corruption in our continent. And number three, we can look at how to add value on our produce and be able to spearhead structural revolution where Africa will be dependent on itself and we can be able to do our things, including even foreign policy, without being interfered with by the Western powers and other world superpowers. I submit, Dr. Masanga.
Thank you very much. I did. Your parting shot, please. Your parting shot.
All right. In conclusion, I may only say that the African leaders must establish personal relationship with each other so that they will discuss this in their close rooms and see how they can get out of these debts. Two, I would also advocate that what Brother Daniel has said about discussing about debts is like discussing about how I should be buried. We should not discuss whether to cancel the debts or not. Debts must be cancelled and should not be brought on the table.
You are very interesting.
When I sit with you.
You have a very interesting way of saying things. That when I should die.
Yes.
Okay.
Discussing about whether debts should be cancelled is like discussing how I should be buried. So why I say the first point is African leaders must have personal relationship is my next second point. To discuss when to cancel the debts and how they should refuse it. They should refuse these debts because countries have survived. The most interesting time that your taste and smell for food is that time when you are very hungry. That is the time that your taste for food and smell for food is best known for. So make sure that we people of Africa must realize that we don't want to be just colleagues on the table of discussions, in the camera, in international meetings, in international televisions, and looking for partnerships. Let us see how we begin from home here. Personal relationship, and then you'll go and refuse those debts. Because again and again, we are going to be going for those debts. But if we refuse those debts, we are going to establish the ways through which we manage our economies. And that is how North Korea, even when they are demoning it, even when they are saying that it is of a dictator. You see, China started in 1941. When it reached 1979, they said dictator Mao. And where is China right now? Because they established policy. You first go on ground, build the policies through which you want to run the economy, not accepting everything in the name of economic state and democratic state. Some of the things you must become dictatorial when you're building a democratic state. And then that is the way Africa should. 726 billion US dollars as a debt for Africa. We people of Africa should really wake up. We should wake up and say, no. No, because they are continuously giving us. And do you think they are giving us because they love us? No. Let us restructure this foreign aid. If they are to give us foreign aid, let us say it is our technocrats who are supposed to build the structures, the infrastructures. And then the money that you've given to us must build our own economy, not taking it back, repatriating it back. That cannot be fair enough, guys. That can't be fair enough. And therefore, on such grounds, those are some of the things that we want to bring solutions in the conference that we are organizing on 24th of 30th of July, 2020, this year in Kampala. So when we sit on grounds like this one, and Dr. Masanga, when we get, oh my goodness, Africa's problems will be solved. Thank you. I beg to submit. We shall continue another time on such.
One of the participants of that conference very highly, and I'm going to take part in it. Send me the details, and I started preparing myself. Thank you very much for joining us indeed from Kampala. Thank you very much, my great brother. You send me the details on my WhatsApp, on my email. We shall be able to work out together. Asante sana. Wanda.
Thank you.
You are the last on the chopping board.
Thank you so much. You know, what happens in Africa is that the crafters of our problem do not see it as a problem and enjoys and thrives in it. Persons who normally feel the pinch in Africa are the citizens. The politicians never feels the pressure, never feels the pinch. Persons who goes to borrow this money are the very politicians. Persons who ends up with this money in their own pockets, they are still the very politicians. Persons who budgets and end up creating, the item list in that budget, overspending in the very budget, they're still the very politicians. Therefore, in this case, we are having two groups. One group that is working with the troublemaker, bringing troubles in the continent, that is okay with it. For instance, if I may use this example, DRC Congo is facing quite a number of challenges. Do we think President Tshisekedi feels the pressure? Definitely no. They are the Congolese that are feeling the pressures. And the reason why we keep having these problems year in, year out, is because whoever is feeling the pressure is not on the table, is not having a voice. The voice is very faint. The voice can be heard from very far. The boys and the girls, the big ones, that are seated on the table, that are negotiating with the West, with the East, bringing all these troubles in the continent, are okay with it, and to them it's not a problem. Therefore, the solutions that we could be having, number one, they will never come from the politicians. For instance, if this politician borrows or is enticed with a loan, given a loan of probably 3 billions, and in these 3 billions, whoever is giving out this loan tells him, I'll give you an extra 1 billion that is just yours. Take these ones, so that when you give me this one, I'll also be able to come and do this business in your country. This 1 billion is going into this politician's pocket, for instance. Whoever is going to service the loan are the citizens who knows not the terms of these loans and everything. Therefore, going forward, the only way that we'll be able to sort out some of these challenges is uniting as people in a country, then start exerting pressure on our leaders. The same way the other day when we were talking about the GMO food, then every person was up on their feet, feeling like, no, we are not going for this, we are not ready for this. To the point that the politicians feel like, okay, these people are not ready, let us hold on first. Let us first win them. Let us soften them before we bring in the GMO thing or such kind of things. And therefore, we need first to come together as people, because we are the persons that are feeling the pressure. And for us to be able to sort out these problems, it's only when we start putting pressure to our leaders to realize that this is too much on us. Lastly, as I land, let us start preaching to our leaders to be more of nationalists, to be more of patriots, so that if they are patriots, probably they'll start having mercy. They'll start feeling that. They love that. They'll start feeling for their own people. They love that kind of that room of imagining that we are hurting people. It is too much to our people. And therefore, I land on that one, that the troubles are more of political troubles created by politicians, and the politicians are not feeling the pressure. So let us get united and try change the mindset of our leaders. In so doing, we'll be able to, in one way or the other, create a new crop of leaders that will start rethinking on the decisions that we make. Dr. Masanga.
Thank you very much, lady and the gentlemen. Miriam, do you have anything else to say?
No, maybe I think Africa, for us to really move forward, then we must learn to take responsibility. We can't keep getting ourselves into trouble, get ourselves into a mess and just hoping that someone will come and clean after us. We must be responsible for our own continent, for our own countries. That is the only way we can really get a hold of moving this continent into the future successfully.
Yeah, thank you very much, lady and gentlemen. Before you go, I want to ask you one question. Do you think there's a university in Kenya that has come out with very good measures of hair, earrings, men plaiting hair? The method, is it called the Methodist Church University?
Methodist University, Strathmore University, Catholic University, all these have the same dress code in place for their students.
Yeah, but Miriam, this is the first time it has happened for me to hear. So I'm asking.
Yes.
This Methodist Church that has put conditions that if a man comes with hair plaited, you don't enter the university. What is your comment quickly on this? All of you. One comment, just don't make it too much. Yes, Daniel Wesonga, do you agree?
I believe, Dr. Masanga, every institution has its code of conduct. And being that we are Africans, then I believe we have our own values and our own culture.
To support it.
Yes, I support it.
Okay, Mr. Idid, a university in Kenya says no man will come with plaited hair in the university. No student will wear with a dress that shows the back of the lady while you are in the classroom. The earrings, man with that. What's your comment on this?
Wow, that is very wonderful. That is a very good policy. First of all, a university should be an example. Establish some of the policies and rules that govern the people who are coming to be professionals, why would a man come and wear earrings? Why would a man come when he's plaiting hair? Why would he? What kind of a man are you going to be? That is an advocacy. LGBTQ. That should not be allowed. That should not be allowed. And thank you by the Catholic University.
Okay. Elif Ziwanda, what's your comment? Elif Ziwanda on students from Methodist University, is it in Kenya? Going with coming.
It is in Kenya, where the university is trying to design and implement a new dress code. To them, they feel like the dress code is not probably selling them out so well. To me, from where I sit, I look at the Methodist University as an African university that is trying to probably tell our own students that we want to do our African way. We want to go the African, and we are not probably facing the West. Therefore, to them and their belief, their ideologies, they could be right. Outside there in the society, trust me, we have some quota that believes in what Methodists are doing. And the students within the premises of the university, some of them are going to reap from it, especially from the conservative, from the old schoolers who believes that this is the norm, this is our tradition, this is how someone is supposed to carry themselves. Therefore, I'll not have so much to explain on it, but I'll only pick a line in the sense that the old schoolers are going to buy into the idea.
Edifs,
Yes,
what is your opinion?
My personal opinion,
yeah.
allow me to hold it for now.
Personal opinion.
Allow me to hold my personal opinion for now.
Do you have injury in the house?
Injuries?
Yeah, injury. I'm saying injury in the house. Daniel Tonga, do you have injury? Because you might have a child in the house who has got that type of hair. That's why you are reserving. You are reserving.
Yes, I'm trying to hold so that I don't pick a fight before I settle the fight.
Miriam, you are the only mother on the platform.
Yeah.
The mid cuts, the type of dressing, the changa things, the yellow, the colored hair, yellow colored with so many colors that if you are listening to your lecturer in the university where every minute counts, you have to take notes. And you are looking at hair which has got green, blue, red, purple in front of you, and then they are, she's looking with makeup that is like you are going for the last ceremony. What do you make about this?
I think Methodist University, they reserve a right for admission. It's a private institution, and I personally support it. And for those who feel that it's unfair, we have other universities that are accommodative to this kind of dress code. I think they could go seek for admission there. But before that, I mentioned earlier, Catholic University also have stringent dress code and Strathmore, and that has not deterred anybody from going there. So for those who agree with this kind of measures, they will go seeking for to get admission there. But for those who have a problem, I think they can find their way to other institutions that accommodate this kind of dress code and all that. But for myself, I have no problem with that. I support it, actually.
So personally, what did you say?
I support the move by Methodist University. I do.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, lady and the gentlemen. I am 100% fully behind the Methodist Church. If you have a university that studies that way in Kenya, go to that university. And well done, kudos to Methodist Church, because you are going to bring discipline to some of our younger generation who wear trousers as if they have packed stones behind. You know, you find a man coming out of the university with a trouser that is actually literally in the knees, as if and there are stones behind, as if you have packed mangoes or something behind, and they are walking very, very. Now, I think I support fully the Methodist Church in Kenya. Kudos to them. And if you feel you want to be a student there, start dressing nicely. Go to the barber, kata hiyo nywele mzuri, or remove it like Dr. Matanga has removed. I remove mine to avoid any encumbrances. I find some old men going to the saloon, sitting there 26 hours that they are dyeing their hair. No, Matanga, dye will never come here. No, Miriam, no. My dye for what? You have reached the age. Enda namna hivyo. Iko watu hapa na wapata wana dye hair. You are dying to impress who? God knows what your age is. Even if you die, you dye the hair, the age remains the same. Haki. Ile kitu, the thing God has kept for you, itakuja. So for me, I don't dye my hair. I just cut my hair normally at the barber shop. I don't have any extravaganza that I work on my body. And that is the best I can do. And that is what I do. Thank you very much. All of you, thank you very much. Our guest from Kampala. But thank you very much, all of you, for attending on this Sunday, the 8th of January. Remember, there are 80 days, then there is 13 days, 14 days left when houses will be silent. A parent will not see the child will not look at the child. When you are spending in Christmas, spend wisely. Thank you very much. That's all I can tell you. God bless all of you. This station, therefore, is for Africa, with Africa by Africa. Ciao.
Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.